Ladies and gentlemen, I have a public service announcement for you. Before I start streaming, it's very important that you hear this public service announcement because I don't want to put my face up there until I tell you what I need to tell you, given the nature of what I'm covering. Then what's going to happen is eventually my video will show up and you will see me in all of my glory. So without further ado, let's get the PSA out of the way. Warning. The following should not be construed as financial advice. All right, good enough. Now, I'm going to let you see me here and ever shortly. Let me go ahead and turn on my little new dealie because I changed stuff around. My goal is to make YouTube happy. YouTube's been giving me fits, and I wanted to get something in there. See that little flicker? This is where I make everything happy and golden. And then, of course, everything's changed in my background. So let me go ahead and get that set up here. First, we're going to go and put my screen up like so. Then we're going to do this business. And I'm actually going to I'm not even going to skip that because I don't really care today because we got a lot to talk about. Today, you're going to see a different background because I'm in the process of relocating and fixing my setup. Ta-da! This is my workspace, as in my Endeavor workspace. Completely different than my usual background. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because everything's all jacked up in my situation. That's all right. I don't care. Today, I don't care because I have a lot to talk about. And I'm not even sure you can hear me right now because of all the jack up. I'm hopeful that you can hear me. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that YouTube stops messing with me. And if they're not, and they're still messing with me and playing with my emotions, like playing with my money, that people here will let me know. I'm hopeful and optimistic this is the case. I'm trusting you guys to keep me on the level while we work past all this stuff here. So let me go ahead and get into what we got going on, and then it'll make better sense. First, UST and Luna. The UST and Luna situation is a problem. It's a big problem. I exposed on social media. They went ahead and opened up the burn vote too late. It has a day and a half, I believe, still remaining on the business. And okay, that's fine. But then you also have, on the flip side, the regular vote for the fork is already in pass. So we're all good to go. And there's very little chance that it's not going to pass at this point because of what they're doing and the way they did it. Well, that's fine. I don't personally care myself, but here's my problem. Here's my frustration. Here's my struggle on this business. If we accept that what he did was fine, if we accept that what he did was okay, if we accept that what he did was cool, right? That he's got the best interest of the community at heart and all this stuff is all up on the level. If we accept this is true, if we accept that he has positive motivation, he just doesn't know how to explain himself. I don't believe this. I'm saying if we accept that as true, let's talk about what might happen, right? It forks. People are going to get screwed. Anybody who is holding gets screwed because they're not going to get their full money back until and unless the new fork actually succeeds, which isn't a guarantee. Anybody who bought in off the dip is going to get screwed because they're only going to get a small percentage, and then there's a vesting, and if that project tanks, they're basically going to get nothing. It reminds me a lot of OpenStream World. It's another token did the same garbage. And so no matter what, these sides are jacked up. The only ones who win are the developers and the validators. If we say that all we care about are the developers and the validators, which is what I suspect, that's fine. But I would assume that we care about more than just the developers and the validators. That's my assumption. I don't know, but I can't get an answer from him. I don't think anybody else has because he's in kind of hiding. And I heard he hired security. He's probably going to need it, especially if there was people in the mob involved in this business. And then South Korea said, you know what, we're actually not going to do this lawsuit. We're kind of backing off. As I said, it was going to happen because, again, unless a government entity was harmed by what he did, there wasn't going to be anything happening. And I knew that was going to be the case because he didn't technically break any laws. He pissed a lot of people off. He screwed a lot of people over. He technically didn't break any laws. There's not really much they can do from a jurisdiction perspective. They're kind of SOL. I'm trying not to swear. So now people are pretty much stuck. I said pretty much guaranteed it's going to go to a fork, and people just have to deal with it and make their own decision for their own purposes. We released our podcast episode just very recently to Anchor. And one thing I said was everybody really should put some thought into what is your investment strategy? Why are you invested in cryptocurrency? What do you want to get out of it? And you may need to recalibrate, as we say, your portfolio strategy and make sure that it's still in line with what you want out of it, and make sure that you're still investing in projects that are worth your time and worth your money and not possibly going to rip you off. And I would ask, and this is my call to action, I would ask that you think about the people behind the project and whether they're competent enough to do what they're trying to do. I had the same argument with Saitama and the cult leader and Seifu and the car salesman, and now LockPay and car salesman 2.0. When you get this weird vibe from the people behind the project, in my opinion, it lends itself potentially to this kind of a risk that something happens and it goes south. You are free to continue on and say, I'm a gambler and I'm going to go on and do it, and I celebrate your right to do it. I'm saying, as somebody that doesn't like to see people get ripped like these people are going to get ripped, I'm saying be thoughtful about why you're invested in projects. Why are you in crypto? What is your strategy? What is your plan? What is your process going forward? And make sure that you calibrate your portfolio to what you want to get out of it. Make sure you're not just doing it because somebody told you. Make sure, ideally, that you're not doing it simply because of a green candle. If your strategy is to be the gambler, that's different. But again, many of these people like KSI bought in off a green candle, and now they're in a really bad spot, and nobody likes to see that. At the end of the day, you got to make your own decision for your own reasons, your own portfolio. I can't make the choice for you. I think it's a bad situation. I think it's a screw job, frankly, because it feels like everything was set up to make people fail and basically enrich validators and Dev and Mr. Kwan himself. Do I have any proof? No, but I'm going off what I see. I'm seeing that the vote was skewed, obviously skewed. It was obviously biased towards what he wanted in the way that the blacklisting occurred, and then they opened it up after everybody had already voted, and now you can't have two positive votes. It's all just jacked up. When you have competing votes, this is not how you handle it. Competing votes have to be handled as competing votes, which means one side votes one way, the other side votes the other way, and if you voted on way A, you cannot vote on way B and tank it, which is what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot more no's that are tanking the burn vote. So even if for whatever reason you did get a veto on the fork vote, they're voting no on the burn vote to try to keep it down and kind of suppress it. Also, the requirement for staking caused a lot of people to not realize we had to go in, not me, but I'm saying as people have to go in, take an actual action to stake your tokens in order to make this all work. None of that was the case. And so there was not a way to be able to make this thing any cleaner other than treat it as competing objectives. They didn't treat it as competing objectives. They're treating it as, we're going to fork. We'll placate you by doing the burn vote. Ain't gonna mean a damn because we're gonna keep going where we're going. That's not the kind of project, in my opinion, that's worth anybody's time or money. Now, you couldn't have known that going in, other than the fact that he was involved in whatever that basis money garbage was and essentially tanked it the same way he's tanking it here. I'm saying that the people have always been, always. I've had this conversation over and over again. The people are the reason why projects fail. It is very infrequent that you have the code as the project or problem in the project. It's very infrequent. More common, it's the people. It's a dev that goes rogue. It's a dev that's incompetent. It's a face of the brand that doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. It's shiller going after excessive shillers. It's arrogance and ego. It's people. People are what tank the projects. The projects that are more humble, the projects that listen to the investors, the projects that treat it like a business, they're the ones that seem to be the long haul. People saw in Terra, it looked like it was acting like a business. The problem is you had a person in front of it who doesn't act like a business owner. He acts like a kid. He's over here using teenage slang in responding to people. There were obvious signs that he probably wasn't cut out for this. So I even now maintain there was really nothing wrong with Terra, the blockchain. There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing fundamentally wrong with UST, although it was abused. I don't agree that it was hacked. I disagree. I feel people made, as in Do Kwon, idiot, made conscious decisions that tanked the project and harmed the investor pool. This is what I see, in my opinion, as somebody looking at it from kind of the outside, wondering what the heck is going on with this business. Because I've seen it happen before, and I see the same pattern. People, not the project, not the code, not the blockchain, not even the devs that built the thing, but in this case, the head guy. Always the case, and I don't like seeing it over and over again. I don't know what it's going to take before we get back to some sense of common sense to where we stop following after these kind of, I don't want to say rug pulls because that's not fair, even though it essentially is going to be a rug pull. I don't want to treat it like that. I want to treat it as there's got to be a better way in how we handle what we're dealing with here. There's got to be a better solution to treating investors fairly and treating them like they matter. When you have governance that's skewed in the way that the leader wants instead of the way the people want, you know it's all jacked up. Problem is, you never could have known that the leader was going to make bad decisions that forced a governance vote in the first place. So that's all I got to say on UST Luna. I still watch it, from a distance, Bette Midler, but I don't closely follow it. It's just I see these weird things happening where they're doing these sketchy actions and all that, and I just figured I would talk about it because I don't know why it was allowed to get this bad. And if I were to ask for regulations, it would be to deal with idiots like him and stop him from taking unilateral action that harm a large investor pool. That would be where I want regulation. There's nothing wrong with cryptocurrency. There never has been. It's always about the people. And if we can solve the people, we should be able to get back to some sense of common sense. Moving on, because I don't want to talk about that anymore. Libero and LIBERA. And you may or may not be interested in Libero or LIBERA, but some are, and I want to talk about what's going on with LIBERA. I think it's important. LIBERA has made history. LIBERA, for those that don't know, is the wrapped version of Libero. So think of it like wrapped Phantom, wrapped ETH, wrapped BNB. It's a wrapped token of Libero. This token then was placed on, it went live on DigiFinex exchange, and it's going to go live on LBank. It's going to go live on Bitmart. The reason this made history is it's the first time that a full rebase, I'm not talking like Ampleforth, I'm talking a full rebase mechanic token, is tradable on an exchange. Now, the LIBERA by itself does not have the same mechanics that Libero does because it's wrapped. It, as far as the exchange is concerned, is just a generic token that doesn't really do anything. But the fact that it's traded on exchanges increases the volume. And because it's wrapped Libero, it increases the volume of Libero. This is huge because it means that as people buy and sell and trade Libera, its price is going to go up with more volume, and it has an extremely heavily constrained inventory. I'm talking to the factor it's down to like 49 million now. It launched with, I think, 100 million or a billion. It was some crazy number. It's burned down now to 49 million because they're trying to constrain the inventory to spike the price and get it up there. The thought is to use it to then increase the volume of Libero, which then would increase the volume of Libero. The parallel between these two, Libero would be equivalent to the US penny. Libera would be equivalent to the US dollar, meaning that it's a denomination of pennies. If we think through the math behind this, it means that the greater that Libera grows, the more its price goes up, the greater Libero's price must grow. Buying into the ecosystem now, because it hit such an extreme dip, we're seeing that Libera's price is skyrocketing. It's jumping like crazy. And it's because people are FOMO buying into it because it's going on the DigiFinex and they know that the price has no choice but to go up. Number one, because of the burn. Number two, because it's on exchanges. Once that happens, Libero is going to start jumping. You're going to start seeing people FOMO buy into Libero. As we saw with LIBERA, now we have to watch what's going to happen there because I believe Libero and LIBERA are going to start slowly but surely surpassing Seifu, Titano, Drip, and all these other ones in stable growth. All of them can grow, but can they maintain the growth that they did? When you looked at Seifu, It launched at 10 bucks, roughly 10 bucks a token. It jumped to 330 bucks a token, crapped to 150 bucks a token, is now about 30 to 40 bucks a token and trending slightly downward. It had a little bit of a pump based on Bitcoin going up. Other than that, it struggled to maintain its velocity. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong necessarily with the code. Again, it goes to people. I've only ever had a problem with people. Titano's got issues with the code. It's got issues as a project. I think the people are garbage too, so it's a double whammy. However, Titano has been able to sustain at least where it was and where it's been. Great. I simply think that Libero's ecosystem and Libera are going to be the big picture ones going forward. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I can't say for a fact when that's going to happen, what it's going to take, how long it's going to take to get there. I'm just saying from my perspective, it feels like Libero is on the right track from a stable growth perspective. That's my pitch on Libero. Libera goes live on DigiFinex today. In fact, I think it just went live, which is going to cause, I would argue, unreasonable pumps on Libera, which I believe is going to spike the volume and the price of Libero down the road as more people unwrap to it. And now, what you all been waiting for, my Fave 5. Fave 5 is a new concept. It is going to change over time. I don't know when I'll change. I don't know what it means. I'm just telling you it's a new concept in what I'm going to be expressing as my favorite 5 projects. First, let me be clear. When I say my favorite 5 projects, the reason I like them, I'm going to tell you. It's going to surprise you in a couple of cases. But these are projects that, like, I would never not invest in them. They're projects that would never leave my portfolio. That's how confident I am in them. Of every project I've evaluated, and I've evaluated about 100 by now, of all of them, these are the 5 mainstays I've always had the confidence in. That's my Fave 5, just so we put it in perspective. Let's go ahead and get into the list. And as I said, with my little audio at the top of the show, I'm not telling you to invest in them. I would encourage you to take a look at them because you might agree with my methodology, but it's up to you. You might have a totally different trade strategy. These are in no particular order, but let's kick it off with I would say, probably my top favorite of just project, Elk Finance. Elk Finance is actually an ecosystem. What it does is they have a bridge and they have what's called ElkNet. And the way it works is, let's say that you're on Ethereum and you know that you want to get into something on AVAX, but you need the AVAX token. You've got a couple choices. You can buy the AVAX token from an exchange. You can go to the AVAX swap. I think it's Trader Joe. And you can try to do it that way with a bunch of hoops, and it's really clunky and convoluted. Or you can go to Elk Finance. And the way theirs works is they have an Elk Finance token on every single network you can think of. So you go in with your Ethereum, you would buy the Ethereum version of Elk Finance. You would trade your Elk Finance Ethereum through their bridge to the AVAX version of Elk. They have a cool little checkbox and it says, use one of them for gas. So what it does is it actually sells it and gives you the AVAX as gas, as like a receipt, as change. Think of it as change. So if I just need to move between networks, arguably theirs is the coolest way to do it. That's why I like them so much. It's so well advanced, built out, and so few people know about it, but there's nothing you can't do with it. If you're stuck in a network and you just need to get to another network, it's my go-to. If I don't want to go to the centralized exchanges, to just simply jump onto another network, and I've used it multiple times. You do have to watch out for some fees, but I love the tool. I like the people. I like how advanced it is. They're very evolved in what they've created. And they've worked really hard to create this structure that allows true decentralized trading, which is rare. You don't see this all too often. Elk Finance, do a search, find them on the search engine. I'm pretty sure it's elk.finance is their site. For the main site, ElkNet is their tool. They have a bunch of tools. ElkNet's the tool that does the switching over to network, and then Elk Bridge is their own bridge to swap other tokens for other tokens when going over the bridge. Arguably my favorite project of all time, of everyone I've ever covered. Second, and I just did a video on them the other day, Parabolic token on the Binance Smart Chain. There's a couple of reasons I love Parabolic so much. Number one, they're one of the few tokens that actually does a burn. When I say a burn, I'm not talking the send to a dead wallet garbage that every token does. I'm talking a burn. They actually execute a burn. They remove the tokens from the supply. That means that at some point, it is going to go parabolic. At some point, it is going to go, quote, to the moon because of constraint of inventory. This is an awesome process just for that, but also they're really nice people. They're really cool devs. The game is really cool that they created. It's a very professional looking site. They're branching out into music. So they're creating a music label, very professional site. They have identification of who they are. Everything just works and clicks. When you look at their graph, you're not impressed because the volume's low. It's going to surprise you why. It's low because they chose not to go after shillers. They chose not to. They said, let's get a game out first. Let's get what we're doing out. Let's create tangible utility. Then let's do a marketing and let's do it right. Let's not rush anything. We're not in any hurry. We want to do this right. We want this to see long term. They don't want it to be a garbage project. They don't want it to crap out. They don't want it to be treated like an emu. They want it to be treated as a serious project. They just went live on an exchange, I think 2 of them. Recently, DigiFinex was one of them. So with the burn in place, as I said, at some point, I would estimate 2-3 years, there's no way this one does not go truly parabolic. But I love the people. I love the utilities. I love the way that they run the project. I love their anti-shiller mentality. There's nothing I don't love about Parabolic Token. And again, these are in no particular order, but I put them up there. Number 3, you've heard me talk about them on almost every video I talk about, MarketMove.ai. MarketMove, of course, is on the Binance Smart Chain. It is a utility. So there's a token, but there's a utility. And what it does is you can see graphs, just like TradingView or MarketView or PooCoin or DEX tools. It has a graph tool, but it also has an audit tool. So you can run any Binance Smart Chain coin token through their tool and it'll do an auto audit. And what it'll tell you is, is there a problem with the holders? Do they hold too many tokens? Is there a problem with the liquidity or the liquidity pools? Is it at risk? Is there a problem with the contract? Is the owner not renounced? It'll tell you all that in plain speak. You don't need to know code. You don't need to know how Solidity works. It dumbs it down in a way you can understand and then gives you a numeric score for these categories. Every time I review a Binance token, I'm going here to Market Move to have them guide me as to what it thinks about the health of the project. It's not perfect because sometimes it'll say it can't sell, but it's because the token dev wasn't competent when they built it. And there's like this weird quirk where you can sell it, but you got to tweak the number or tweak the decimal. But at least it's a guide. Like say the owner holds 80% of the tokens, like this LockPay garbage. It'll tell you that. Or the liquidity only has $1,000 in it, so it doesn't do you any good. It'll tell you that. Or there's these 5 liquidity pools and this one only has $1 in it. It'll tell you that. Or the owner can change fees. It'll tell you that. Or the owner can block transactions. It can tell you that. So now, without you having to know code to evaluate projects, you can just plug in a Binance token here and it'll tell you this. Some will say, well, why wouldn't I just use Token Sniffer or one of the other ones? The problem with those is they make assumptions about what they see. So for example, I know Token Sniffer will tell you this is a risk because it charges a 13% fee. Well, that's not a risk. That's just something you need to know. It's not a risk. The fact that they can increase the fee to 100% would be a risk that I can't sell. The fact that it's a 13% fee, who cares? You just need to know it, but it's not a risk. That's not true. Market Move doesn't present it as a risk that they can change the fee. It just tells you, FYI, they can change the fee, so you make your choice as to what you do about it. Love them for the tool. And then the token started to present to different exchanges. So at some point, it is going to go up in price. It has a heavily constrained inventory. The token powers the utility. So the more of the utility that's used, that token is going to be consumed and its price is going to go up as well. But they're also nice devs. They have a very professional product. I argue it's better than many of the other ones I've seen. Like I've seen CoinView Cap. I wasn't impressed with that one, frankly. I know a lot of people are pitching that one. I'm not sold on CoinView Cap. I think it'll get there, but today I'm like, Market Move, I'm over the moon, not even to the moon. I'm over the moon on that one. Next one up, and I've talked about this one, Everrise. Everrise is the most beautiful ecosystem in all of cryptocurrency because they worked hard to create all these different tools, and they're acting like a business, but they also secured venture capital. Securing venture capital means they're outside of the crypto bubble. They're trying to be a legit business. They're trying to do things that is treated as a legitimate business, unlike any other that you can think of. They're trying to act like a real business. And the tools that they're creating and the tools that they're providing, they've been working hard for the longest time. They've been around for well over a year, working and working, just creating these utilities. And we're seeing more tokens start to use their utilities. They're increasingly getting people on EverSwap. If you know Saitama, who tried to get a bunch of tokens on SideMask and failed, and then Dojo Swap, who ultimately struggled to get people on that one. It's not even close. EverSwap is just knocking them out the park and getting new ones onboarded all the time. Everbridge, you're seeing a bunch of tokens get on Everbridge. You're seeing a bunch of tokens use EverMigrate for the migrations. You're seeing a couple tokens use EverOwn. And the NFT staking lab is the coolest thing you ever saw because it solves the problem with staking, which is that you get an NFT that's a tradable NFT, and it's a cool looking NFT, but it also lets you see your true value in your wallet. Whereas other staking, your value disappears because it's in the stake. Here, it keeps your value visible in the wallet. That's huge. Also, you can increase your stake at any time. You can transfer your stake to somebody else. You can sell, so you can change the parameters of it. You just lose the rewards. It gives you total control. And once you get more projects using things like EverOwn, you can have security in the project without them having to renounce. And the risk of renouncing is, of course, if something goes wrong, they have to do a migration, right? Like Paratoken. It immediately renounced, and then what happened? It basically had a migration every single month because they weren't competent enough to keep the code clean. With a tool like EverOwn, it's locked, but then they have to go to the community, ask permission, and say, we want to make these changes. Are you okay with it? The community votes. The dev gets temporary unlock. They can make the changes and lock it back again. It puts power back in the hands of the investors. Beautiful ecosystem, beautiful project, beautiful people. Outside the crypto bubble, stellar. It has no choice but to be, from my eyes, one of those top players in the next 2 or 3 years. Easy. It's going to take some time just because people are just now starting to see how good it is. So they got a little bit of a late head start because they weren't shilling it. They weren't going after a lot of people. If you know Zach Humphreys, he is their brand ambassador, so he has other coverage of it. And he's been talking about them for a while. But they've never gone after excessive shill. It's always been, the meme coins of the world, which it is what it is. Finally, last but not least, and everybody's heard me talk about them before, LIBERA ecosystem. I want to just say, I don't like the devs of LIBERA. That's why I left them last. I do not like the devs of LIBERA. They're hardworking people. They put out a quality product, but I don't like them. They don't want the smoke, one, and they make silly mistakes, preventable mistakes. They rush things out. They suck at explaining what they're doing. So I'm not spotlighting them because of the people. I'm spotlighting them because of the potential. And I want to stress what I'm talking about here. LIBERA, the token, when it launched, nobody knew what the heck this was. Nobody realized there's something here. Nobody was appreciating that there's something that this could be in a future state. This launched in January on the pre-sale through the Thorium network. The Thorium network's well established. They have Epic Hero, they have Multiverse, they have Thunder, and the Thorium token itself. It's been around a long time. They have very, let's say, well-versed devs. They know what to do. They know how to build advanced solutions. Multiverse Capital was their most advanced solution. It does yield farming. LIBERA Financial took what Multiverse did and wrapped it into this rebase concept. They were not the first. Titano was the first. They took Titano's structure and they improved on the flaws that Titano had. When this was on pre-sale, not many people were aware of it. I was one of the first to ever cover it on YouTube. I jumped into the pre-sale because I saw something there. After I jumped in the pre-sale, it never even sold out. So I still knew people didn't know what this thing was. Immediately, I saw it grow very steadily. I started doing coverage on it to try to help people understand. I think there's something here, and I think it had 2 zeros at the time, and it kept growing. It was getting close to a penny, and I did my last video about close to a penny that I believe even had this cover, and I was telling people, you don't have to buy in if you don't want, but I'm just telling you, I think it's going to hit a penny, so don't miss the train. And people still didn't buy into it at all. It hits a penny, a bunch of people are made millionaires. I didn't invest that much in it, but I had taken profit on the way up. Basically, it doubled. Every single time I turned around, double. I got a lot of profit, at least 10x profit. So I was satisfied. I've never been in the negative with Libero. Libero has had a hard time with Seifu. When Seifu came out, it came out after this. Had a hard time because of that. Had a hard time because of Tantano V2. Had a hard time because of the millionaires selling. They were just selling. It has a dump mechanic, so you can't just dump, but there was a lot of people that just sold out. No problem. Then we hit the bear season. Everything goes red, and people are still selling everything, and then this one's up. They launched Libero Bank. I do a video about Libero Bank to help people understand what this is. It's basically their staking, and you can get passive rewards. And I took my excess profit, tossed it in the bank, and I've left it there ever since. As it got more red, it eventually dropped to the point that it was below the pre-sale price. I still thought there was something here, so I put more money in it, and I've kept that basis because this is one of those that it's like cyclical. It's just going to kind of go like this. In my opinion, it's not going to be one that's just going to stay down. It's going to be down at points, and then it's going to go back up. It's going to get near a penny again. People are going to be made millionaires that believed in it, and then it's going to go down again and repeat that cycle. My theory, this one's going to start climbing sometime in June or July. It's going to take about a month or two to get back to the penny. Libera, meanwhile, is going to, I believe, steadily grow from its current $1.80 or whatever it is. I believe it's going to get to the double figures by the third quarter. I believe that people are going to dump out that have become millionaires because people have a lot of money in that Libera. I think there's going to be a lot of unwrapping, and more millionaires are going to be made when they start unwrapping and selling off. That's my theory. Libero is one of those where I truly cannot stand the devs. They're not the worst devs. That's Satama. But they're pretty bad because they're too arrogant. Their ego gets in the way. But I can't ignore the fact that they created something that I think is one of the best projects that I've ever seen. If you run theirs through Market Move, and I challenge you to do this too, don't believe me, don't take my word for it. If you run theirs through Market Move is going to tell you that they don't have a lot of large holders, which is true because of the way that they built the project. They don't have, everything's kind of locked up and restricted, and it's not renounced as far as I can recall, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, nobody really holds that much where they can take it. And the liquidity is off to the side. So if something were to happen, it would happen to the whole ecosystem because it's shared. It's shared with Thorium. It's shared with Epic Hero. It's shared with Multiverse. Those have been around a long time, especially Thorium. So if they were going to tank, they would have tanked those a long time ago. Much of the money in this comes from Thorium. If they were going to steal, they would steal it from their own Thorium, and they never have. It's never had a rug pull. It has had a hack. The Thorium exchange, I believe, is a V2. Yes, it is. It's a V2. It got hacked originally, and they compensated everybody who was hacked. There was another project that they had. I forget the name of it. It no longer exists. It got hacked. They actually still had the widget to get the compensation back for those that got hacked on it. Given all that, I'm of the faith that they are generally good people. They're just arrogant. It's not that they're trying to rip anybody off. I do see that there's a little bit of risk, obviously, not just to the APY, but because their investment strategy is all about kind of this yield farming, taking multiple pieces and they're all farming together to create what you're doing. That depends on green. That depends on a bull market. And we're not in a bull market. So then in a bear market, I saw when I did an analysis, and I'll wrap this up, that they were farming from basically the pancake swap, and they have the bet function, which you can go to if you wanted. In the pancake swap, you can bet on whether the price of BNB or cake is going to go up or down. Well, their liquidity pool is BNB, so they know, okay, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. They know that, so they're always winning, and so they're using that to sustain the liquidity pool. As a result, Libero's liquidity pool has never been at any hard risk, whereas Seifu started crapping out because they took from the money and they were paying into the project to try to keep the price up. Whereas LIBERA pays the holders, and as the price of BNB goes down, it pays you more money. I can't think of any other reason why you would do that other than you want the holders to be good when it's down and good when it's up. This tells me that it's good faith. It could very well yank off it. I've already made all my money back. So for me, it was zero risk. It's all net profit. But most important, and this is my circle on all of these as to why they're all in my fave 5, I never go after the meme tokens to get an immediate go to the fucking moon, do anymore. I'm done with that. I'm looking for the projects that look like they're serious. I'm looking for the projects that are likely long-term. I'm looking for the projects that aren't going anywhere that I can tell. I'm looking for the projects to pay me passive rewards. I'm looking for the projects that build strong utility. I'm looking for the projects that behave like a business to at least some degree. LIBERA's got some work to do. I've told them that. They don't listen to me, that's fine. But their solution feels like they're trying. They're at least trying to be a stronger cryptocurrency than everything we've seen out there in the meme space. And that was appealing to me. All the other ones have solid utility that speaks for itself. And I'm investing to help them get that utility to the mainstream because that's the end game for me. That's my fave 5, you guys. And that's my summary on LIBERA, UST, Luna. And candid, I am in a totally different mind space for cryptocurrency than I ever was. I can listen back to my October, my November, my December, and I had it completely wrong. I was simply going after what I was going after with no real game plan. Now I've got a game plan, and now I'm more confident in my portfolio. I feel better about it. I don't have to care about looking at the graphs. I don't have to care about looking at the wallet, frankly. I just have a plan for what I invest in, and why is I see these as worth investing in, and I want to give them some money to keep them around. And I see other people are coming around to that same mantra of not just leaping to the next meme coin. That's why you see ones like Baby Doge. That's still popular, but it's never gotten past that level. SHIB has declined in popularity, if you notice it. Saitama might as well be near dead. I know they're doing the V2. I said it's not going to really make a difference because you haven't fixed the people. Max is leaving. Okay, Max is leaving for a reason, probably because he doesn't agree with the strategy either. He knows it's a cluster. These are obvious. They're obvious. The era of the meme coins is going the way of the dodo. They're losing a lot of that luster. People are no longer interested in the tokens of let's fucking go to the fucking moon, do. That's less of a thing. There's still people out there doing it, but it's less of a thing. My closure note for you guys is this, same as I said on the podcast, my call to action. Be thinking about what your investment strategy is. Why are you in cryptocurrency? And the reason I say that is because you might be surprised if you really sat and thought about it. Why am I in it, right? You might be surprised that your portfolio probably doesn't match why you're in it. Because if you have projects, let's say you're in it just because you want to get rich. You probably have projects where you've lost more money than you've put in or that you've gained. That means you're not meeting your goal, right? If you're in cryptocurrency because let's say your family is impoverished and you want to help them out. If you've lost more money than you've invested, you're not meeting that goal. If you're in cryptocurrency because you believe in their cause, did they deliver? Have they delivered what they said? My issue with Paratoken is they weren't even trying to do what they said they were trying to do. So I stopped investing in them because they were no longer aligned with my priority. Be thinking about why you're in crypto. Create that plan and that strategy of why you're in it and make sure that you support your portfolio being on that same vein. It should be aligned with what you want out of crypto, but you got to start with understanding why. Why are you doing this? And then what you're going to see is that there's going to be those projects that come along and it's like, that's the one. And I want to add it to the list. And that's the one I want to add to the list. And that's the one I want to add to the list. And now you'll have a portfolio that's actually worth a damn instead of the ones that are just, let's fucking go to the fucking moon, do. That's my opinion to you guys. You are free to do what you want to do, including ignore me completely in everything I said. That's the beauty of a free market. You can completely ignore every advice that you get. I would say this, though. If you listen to any of the influencers on YouTube who actively tell you to buy into a thing, I challenge you to look at their track record of success on the projects that they tell you to buy into and whether they're still around or whether they're pump and dumps. And then think about whether they actually are thinking of you or thinking of themselves and their own bags. That's all I got, folks. I'm done. I'm about to go get something to eat. Thank you for listening this long. I promise you, next time we go live, I will be back in my original setup and you will no longer see my business office. This was temporary. I didn't really care today because I had a lot to talk about and the discussion was a little bit more important than the background. See ya.